The apocalypse is not over. If anything, it has evolved, grown fangs in the dark corners of the city where even the walkers dare not tread. In Dead City Season 2, Episode 1, The Grim, Fractured World of The Walking Dead reintroduces us to two of its most complicated survivors, Maggie Rhee and Negan Smith. Their uneasy alliance is tested once again as they're thrust deeper into the grotesque underbelly of post-apocalyptic Manhattan, now even more twisted than the season before. This first episode wastes no time setting up the tone, tension, and thematic weight of what promises to be a brutal, emotionally charged, and high-stakes season. The city is no longer just a setting. It's a character itself. Alive, bleeding, broken, and vengeful. Setting the stage. Season 2 opens with a blood-red skyline and the distant echo of screams. The Manhattan we knew in Season 1 is now even more desolate and grim. Buildings crumble. The skyline is silhouetted against clouds of smoke, and overgrown vines strangle what's left of humanity's monuments. The city isn't just dying, it's decaying. The episode opens with a slow, quiet prologue. Maggie stands on a rooftop, staring at the city below with binoculars. The look in her eyes tells us everything. She's seen too much, lost too much, and she's tired. But there's no time for rest. The boy Herschel still haunts her thoughts, even though he was rescued at the end of Season 1. She feels the cost of that rescue, the cost of trusting Negan. Negan, meanwhile, is alone in a crumbling chapel, his hands wrapped in bandages. He's talking to no one, or maybe to Lucille in his mind. It's a quiet, haunting monologue that reminds us that despite everything, guilt still eats away at him. This version of Negan is a far cry from the charismatic monster of early Walking Dead. This man is older, sadder, slower, and yet, the violence within him still simmers just beneath the surface. Plot development. The episode's plot is a deliberate slow burn. We're reintroduced to the major players: Maggie, Negan, Herschel, and a few new faces from the resistance cells that operate beneath Manhattan. The Dama, introduced last season as the cold-blooded manipulator behind many of the city's worst horrors, is now an even greater threat. Her forces have expanded. Her reach extends through the city like rot. The resistance, such as it is, barely survives underground. They operate in tunnels, whisper in codes, and avoid light. One of the new characters, Ortega, becomes a focal point. A young woman born in the apocalypse, she's never known a world without walkers. She views Maggie and Negan as relics, as myths, as dangerous people carrying ancient sins. This generational tension becomes an early theme. What does survival mean for those who never had it before? The central plot of Episode 1 revolves around a failed weapons heist. Maggie and Negan agree to help Ortega's crew retrieve a shipment of stolen supplies from a derailed train deep in Walker territory. This mission becomes the catalyst for most of the episode's action, character tension, and horror. Character dynamics. Maggie and Negan. Their relationship is more strained than ever. The events of Season 1 did not heal their wounds. They simply gave them more. Maggie is cold, focused, and clearly still haunted. She speaks in clipped sentences. She avoids eye contact with Negan. At one point, she snaps at him. "You think saving him makes it right? You think that erases Glenn?" Negan, to his credit, doesn't bite back. He seems genuinely remorseful, yet that remorse is layered with resignation. He knows he can never make things right. He's no longer trying to be forgiven, he's just trying to be useful. There's a gut-wrenching moment during the heist where he pushes Maggie out of the path of a walker and takes a bite to the arm. She freezes. Her instincts scream to help him, but her trauma says otherwise. The wound turns out to be minor, a scrape, not a bite, but the moment is telling. Maggie still can't bring herself to fully trust him, even if her life depends on it. Herschel. The episode only gives us glimpses of Herschel, who's now safely hidden away in a resistance safe house. He's older, harder. He doesn't smile much. The boy who once played with wooden toys is now learning how to shoot. He barely speaks to his mother. It's clear that being held hostage changed him, and his view of Negan is even more complicated than Maggie's. Ortega and the resistance. Ortega's group represents a different kind of survivor. They're organized, militant, and pragmatic. But they're also ruthless. They view Maggie and Negan as unpredictable. There's a sense that they'd sooner kill them than risk the Dama tracking them down. Ortega herself is fascinating. A mix of idealism and bitterness. She admires Maggie's legendary status as a leader, yet doesn't trust her judgment. In contrast, she sees Negan as a liability, a war criminal on borrowed time. The action. The heist sequence midway through the episode is the standout action set piece. The group sneaks through the lower tunnels of the subway, only to find the derailed train surrounded by a new type of walker. One's fused together by flesh and bone, having spent too long trapped in a collapsed tunnel. Their moans are less human, more like an animal chorus. The fight is gritty and terrifying. Unlike past Walking Dead action, which often went for cinematic flair, this battle is clumsy, panicked, and intimate. Flashlights swing wildly. Knives jam. One resistance fighter loses his leg. Another panics and accidentally shoots his own teammate. Negan and Maggie, out of necessity, fight back to back. They don't speak. They just move, strike, breathe, survive. It's a brutal reminder that whatever divides them, they are still two of the most lethal survivors in this world. They escape with the weapons but not unscathed. Tensions rise. One resistance fighter threatens to kill Negan on the spot, calling him a butcher. Maggie doesn't intervene. The themes. Trauma and legacy. This episode is soaked in trauma. Everyone carries scars, not just physical but emotional. Maggie's pain over Glenn's death is unresolved. Negan's guilt continues to torment him. Herschel's silence is its own indictment. Even the younger characters, like Ortega, carry inherited trauma, shaped by stories of past horrors. There's a poignant moment where Herschel finds an old comic book and asks his mother, "Were superheroes ever real?" Maggie answers, "Not the kind that wore capes." It's a small moment, but it reflects the series' deepening exploration of myth versus reality. In a world where survival is mythic, who gets to be the hero? Reinvention and redemption. Negan's arc continues to flirt with redemption, but the show wisely avoids making it clean or satisfying. He saves lives. He risks himself. But every time he tries to help, the shadow of his past looms. Ortega refuses his help. One resistance fighter outright spits on him. Even Maggie seems more distant than before. Yet Negan doesn't stop trying. His redemption is quiet, gritty, painful. He's no longer trying to atone to win affection. He does it because it's the only thing left keeping him human. The city as a monster. New York isn't just a setting anymore. It's a monster of its own. The sounds of the city, sirens, screams, growls, become a constant background noise. The Dama has turned the city into a labyrinth of traps, cults, and manipulated tribes. The skyline is no longer freedom, it's a prison. Cinematography and atmosphere. The visual design of episode 1 is stunning. The camera lingers on details. A rusted toy in a child's hand. A bloodstain shaped like wings. The trembling fingers of a frightened survivor. The lighting is minimal, torches, candles, fading flashlights. Everything feels claustrophobic. The soundtrack blends eerie ambient tones with sudden percussive beats. There's little traditional music. Instead, dread fills every silence. When walkers appear, the sound design shifts. Scratching metal, echoing footsteps, choked breaths. The directing, likely by someone like Greg Nicotero, given the style, leans into horror more than drama. Tight shots, sudden cuts, jump scares that actually work because they're earned, not forced. Closing moments. The episode ends with a major cliffhanger. As Maggie and Negan return to the safe house, they find it destroyed. Bodies are everywhere, resistance members butchered. A message is scrawled in blood on the wall. Traitors die. Herschel is gone. There's no sound. Just the flickering light of a fire and the distant moans of walkers approaching. Maggie falls to her knees. Negan looks away. For once, neither speaks. Fade to black. Final thoughts. Season 2, Episode 1 of Dead City delivers everything fans could hope for: brutal action, layered character drama, shocking twists, and atmospheric horror. It sets the stage for a season of reckoning between Maggie and Negan, between old world and new, between past sins and future hope. The show remains one of the most emotionally complex entries in the Walking Dead franchise. It's less about survival and more about what it costs to survive. If the rest of the season maintains this level of writing, performance, and thematic depth, Dead City might not just be a worthy continuation. It might become the definitive post-apocalyptic character study of our time.